I started playing Destiny 1 back in the Taken King days. I was never one of the day one people that got into Destiny 1. In fact, I wasn't even that big into gaming back in those days. I think I've always kind of played Pokemon since it came out. I've been like a card game player. I played some games, just never nearly as much as I did until I got Destiny 1. And even then, I didn't play like a lot of friends or anything. I did most of the single player stuff. And then eventually got into raiding and that kind of thing. And after that, I was hooked. I played Destiny 1 all through Taken King and until Destiny 2 came out. And believe it or not, you may not know this, but I was actually one of the original Destiny 2 YouTubers. Now, I'm not saying I was one of the big ones, but I am saying I used to make Destiny 2 content from before Destiny 2 came out. If you go back to the early days of my channel, I actually have some speculation videos and some videos kind of counting down the days until Destiny 2 came out. And I even had some early Xur videos. I actually covered the first week or two of Xur, and was actually doing pretty decent with the game until Curse of Osiris came out. I was there for the early days of the controversies of Destiny 2. I was there pretty much until Curse of Osiris kind of petered out, which that didn't take long because it was Curse of Osiris. I never came back until Shadowkeep, or Scarlet, yeah, Shadowkeep. And I've been playing ever since then. I say all that to let you know exactly how long I've been playing the Destiny franchise. And it's not like I've only played a little bit. I've got about 5,000 hours in game. Although, of course, you know the meme for Destiny is you spend half your time in orbit. So take that 5,000, divide it by 2, and I got about 2,500 hours of actual playtime in the game. Let's cut it down to 2,000 hours. So even if I cut it down to just 1/5 of that time, 1,000 hours, I've got plenty of playtime in the game. You can see I've got my Conqueror title. I've actually had it gilded last season. I'll be gilding it again this season. What I'm trying to get to is that I'm not a newcomer to the game. I have played it quite a bit. I am fairly good at it. I'm not a top tier player, as far as like soloing raids or even soloing dungeons, because frankly, I just don't have the time to solo a dungeon, although I probably could. I tear out what little hair I got left here. I mean, there's not much. I'm probably to tear out the beard hair at this point, but I could do it if I wanted to. I just don't care to do it. Or I should say, if I would keep my level 11 after soloing the dungeon, I would. But the fact that I've got to redo it every time a new dungeon comes out, it's not worth it for me. I'm saying all this to let you know that I've got a base for the game, and I've been around for quite a while as far as Destiny 2 goes. I say all this to say this. I've got a pretty good idea of where Destiny 2 is going to be going in the future. As well, I didn't start all, so Twitch didn't get beginning diatribe for that, but that's okay. The point is, I've been around for a while for Destiny 2, and in fact, I've been here since the beginning. I missed out on the Forsaken era because, again, I quit after Curse of Osiris, but again, I came back. I got to catch up on all of it, so I haven't really missed much. If you go back and look, or even talk to some players that play WoW, I myself have never played it, but I understand the phenomenon of, even though the game has not been a great spot, and again, I haven't played it, so I'm really going off of what other seasoned veterans of WoW are saying. The game has not been in a great spot for a while, and many of them have left. Now, Destiny 2 has had about the same problem that WoW has, or I should say the players have, in that after a while, you've got so much time spent in a game, it's hard giving it up. Destiny 2 does have, hands down, probably the best power fantasy looter shooter aspect of any game out there right now. Your powers you can use, your weapons, your customization, all of that is awesome. It is unmatched. Even games like Warframe can't quite match up to it. They got a bit more customization of weapons, yeah, but the pay-to-win aspect of it, or just all the grinding aspects of it kind of fuck some of it up. But Destiny 2 by far feels like it does what it does well as far as being a looter shooter and gunplay. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But it's everything else that is wrapped up around that is a problem. The gunplay and the power play in Destiny 2 is like the rich, creamy nougat you find in a candy bar. The problem is it's got a rich, shitty candy shell on the outside. Getting past that is very hard for some players, and is getting hard for veteran players. And at this point, the only thing that's really kept them around is the fact that we played so long, it's hard to go back and give that up. But you're seeing more and more players do that. I'm saying all this, and I keep saying I'm leading up to something. I'm leaning up to this, whereas from what I understand, WoW never really had a good stopping point to it. Destiny 2 currently has a hard stopping point to it coming up in the final shape. We are going to be coming to the end of the Light and Darkness saga, and that is going to be a very unique opportunity, and I think it's going to be a unique phenomenon in gaming that we are going to see a mass exodus of a massive player base leaving a long-time franchise that will never come back, or very likely not come back, if Bungie does not deliver many, many things for the final shape. Now, every player who's kind of tired of all the crap Bungie has done is looking for different things, but before we go on that, I am just off the top of my head going to go over some of the controversy that Destiny 2 has had since its release. And actually, we're going to begin with Destiny 1. Now, at one point, I remember a time where there was no cash shop. In fact, I remember back when the Eververse, I forgot if it was called that back in Destiny 1, but I remember when it first got released and when we were talking about in gaming, there being cash shops and paid games. In fact, I remember a clanmate of mine at the time saying something along the lines of, and I am paraphrasing, I've got a job and some extra money, so hey, I'm going to go ahead and get some armor out of the cash shop. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I wanted to argue with him, like, why are you doing that? You doing that just going to make it worse for everybody, because the more people pay for this shit, the more they're going to bring it out. But I think I did argue at one point. I don't think I called him a dumbass. Was like, the more you pay for this shit, the more shit's going to be locked behind a paywall. Here we are, of course, in Destiny 2, where every season we've got more and more armor ornaments that are coming out that are awesome, but are locked behind paywalls, with no way to earn them in-game, I might add. You get, little Ingram you can unlock, every so often. That gives you some random emote or some BS, or more than likely you're going to get a purple legendary ship that you have to dismantle that you're never going to use. You rarely ever get anything good. Maybe every other season you get an exotic, and that's it. Maybe once a season you get an exotic out of that Ingram if you're a really dedicated player. But past that, it's really shitty. Everything's locked behind a paywall. And it's not like it's Warframe where it's a legitimate legitimate free-to-play game where you can actually earn everything in game. You can't earn most of the armor artifacts in game, or at least you can't get them most of the time. You got to wait for a season to come around where what you're looking for finally comes out piece by piece for the in-game currency, Bright Dust. You can't just get them all at once. You got to wait week by week and buy them all for each character. We're at a point now to where entire armor sets are costing $20 for just an armor set for one character. And if you want to get it for all three characters, I'm looking at you, Witcher Armor, because as much as I hate to say it, it was an awesome armor set and I did buy it, and I hate myself for it. But we're looking at that, getting it for all three characters would basically net you a whole other video game. And what's sad is not only do I know that it's a shitty deal, I hate the fact that it worked on me, which is another reason people are looking to probably get away from the game. But we'll get to that in a bit. So that started back in Destiny 1. I remember when Destiny 2 came out. Again, I was an original person who was covering the game. I was never big. I'm not trying to claim that, but I was somebody covering the game before it came out and when it did first come out. I remember actually at the time I was thinking I'm going to be Destiny 2 YouTuber. I'm going to try to cover this. I actually even bought copies for a couple clanmates who couldn't afford it so that we could all make content together. That's a whole other story that I'm not happy about, but that's a story for another time. But I was there with them at the beginning of Destiny 2, and I remember in the early days when we had all the issues with Destiny 2. We're talking where we had static rolls for weapons that were not randomly rolled. We're talking one of the biggest controversies that came out that turns out it was actually Bungie doing it, how they actually throttled our experience when we first started. Now, for those who don't know, when Bungie first came, or when Destiny 2 first came out, you actually leveled up 1 through 20. I know it's a different system now. There's been a bunch of different power systems throughout the game's history, but when it first came out, you actually leveled up 1 through 20, I believe. And depending on what level you were, you could progress further in the story. And if you want a high enough level, you had to do stuff like random events to level up. Now, once you got to a certain level, once you maxed out, once you got to a certain level, I think every level, instead of getting more power, you would get what would be equivalent to a Bright Ingram today. And that would allow you to get something out of the cash shop. Well, come to find out that Bungie was throttling our experience something like 93% or some shit. Basically, it turned out that the longer you played, the less experience you were getting. Now, some players went and did the math, and long story short, they got busted lying, saying they weren't doing it, and then they had to come out and say, yeah, we were doing it. They were throttling our experience. And the only reason they would do that is to prevent us from getting cash shop items for free. Because that's the only thing you would get at that point would be Bright Engrams. Again, I don't remember that's what they were called at the time, but Bright Engrams and cash shop items were what you would be doing that for. Now, of course, then later on, Curse of Osiris came out, and the big issue with it was that it was boring as shit. It was an expansion that had nothing to it. I remember doing the quest for it. It was okay, but they made Osiris out to be some, awesome badass of the ages, and for some reason he needs our help, and we get in there and he does need help. It's just like a little strike. Like even the lore behind why he needed our help was so fucking stupid. But that wouldn't have been such a big deal if it wasn't for the fact that the expansion was boring as hell. And in fact, at that point, I think we may have still not had randomly rolled weapons. I don't remember at what point we actually got them, but yeah, it was pretty damn bad. Cheating in PvP has been an issue for a long time in Destiny 2. I can't speak too much on the history of it because, again, I will be the first to admit I'm not a big PvP person. But I do know that lately it has gone out of fucking hand as far as the PvP cheating. I've seen it in PvP and PvE. A lot of raid races have been kind of messed up because people have been cheating, or not quite messed up, but people have tried to cheat in raid races, and it just caused some issues. There have been so many controversies throughout Destiny 2 that even going, like every time I've gone through this in my head, and I know I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head because I want to do this stuff live. Every time I go over this in my head, what I want to talk about, I have different things that pop up controversy-wise because there's been so many things from Destiny 2 over the years. Some of it's been gameplay stuff, bugs in the game. We have had times where they've nerfed certain armors or weapons while letting others be super strong. That can be subjective depending on what class you are at the time. People argue some things are powerful, others are not. I'm not going to get too far into that because that's a balancing issue you can talk about in any game, how things are strong and others aren't. I will say this, though, it's typically not a good idea to nerf something. It's typically better to buff other things, but that's neither here nor there. Of course, recently we've got the latest, I'd say, two big controversies, and that being, first off, Lightfall being a massive, massive, massive disappointment. Again, for those that don't know, originally we were supposed to have Witch Queen, and I think it's supposed to be the final shape, but they added in Lightfall in between, the expansion. We're originally supposed to go, I think, from Witch Queen to the final shape. That's supposed to be the last chapter of Light and Dark, I believe. And instead they said they needed more time, so they added in Lightfall in between. They added this in, and it was really obvious when they added it in, playing through it, that this was just filler material for final shape. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I think once it was announced that they added in that additional chapter, if anyone thought it was going to be anything other than filler content, I'll be honest, we were just being delusional at that time. Because I remember they announced this, and then I remember playing through Lightfall, and I was very disappointed because it ended up essentially being just a big tutorial on how to use a new subclass, Strand. And we found out later on Strand was supposed to have been in the Witch Queen. They didn't have it ready in time, so they had to add in Lightfall and delay the final shape because they weren't ready for it. It all felt very rushed. It all felt very filler. And to be honest, again, had we been honest with ourselves, we would have known it was going to be filler because they said they needed more time. That's the definition of filler. But regardless, they charge the same amount for that DLC as they did for Forsaken, which has been generally rated as the best DLC for Destiny 2 so far. Forsaken, it came with a ton of exotics. It came with a lot of story lore. For those who don't know, it's not a spoiler at this point, but that's the lore, or that's the season where Kate 6 died. We basically got to go on our vengeance, quest of vengeance. A lot of things change in the story. Later on, of course, Alder Saul would become Crow. I mean, it had a lot of story implications that are reaching us even today. But the same price that we paid for Lightfall is what they charge for... is what we charged for Forsaken. And there was far, far less content in Lightfall than there was for Forsaken. Now, Lightfall still came out with, they had their raid, they had their campaign, they had some exotics and whatnot. But it wasn't nearly as much as Forsaken was. On top of that, it doesn't come with the dungeon, which is another irk. things like battle passes and the dungeon, which Destiny 2 has added in, and they're all separate, mind you. It's not like when you buy the expansion that comes with the battle pass unlocked and the dungeon. The dungeons are sold separately, and the battle passes are technically sold separately. There is a free path for the battle passes, of course, but you barely get anything out of it, so you typically want to buy the actual battle pass, which, again, just one more way to monetize the game without giving us anything back, really. And that is what it all comes down to, is that this game is being monetized like crazy, and the player base isn't seeing much given back to them. But again, I'm going to keep going over the controversy before I get into what's about to happen to the game. So Lightfall came out. It was, I mean, I think it's, I want to check it out right now, actually. We're going to look at this live. I want to see what Lightfall is looking like right now. Here is my Destiny 2. Let's go to store page, DLC. I want to see, so Final Shape, you can see I already pre-ordered everything, yada yada. Here we go. Here is Lightfall. Look at it. This is Lightfall is mostly negative right now. It's very negative currently, but overall it is mostly negative. That is insane. And keep in mind, this was the price of a full DLC, a full expansion. That's fucking nuts, okay? And this is not people who are playing who are new to the game. These are people who are playing the game already. Matter of fact, let's go again. We're gonna look at the newest post here. So December 29th, buying drugs would be a better idea. Does not show me how long they played the game. I'd like to see that, but it's not showing me that. Here we go. I'm ashamed of having 6,000 hours on the game developed by these guys. Yada yada. I want to see me destroy a franchise. Put some $20 scam DLC. Want to see me do it again? Yeah. How much is this costing right now? Because I think right now it's on. Yeah, right now it's on sale. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the annual pass. But yeah, I think it's still on sale right now. So this was not on sale, obviously, at the beginning. Right now it's on sale. I think the Destiny 2 Life on annual pass is selling for $40 right now when it was $100. So that's insane. This is currently at mostly negative. That gives you an idea how people really felt about this. Now, to give you another idea of what the DLC before that was, Witch Queen, let's take a look at it. Oh, Witch Queen has actually gone down to mostly negative. That's insane. It was mostly positive. Now it's mostly negative. That's from the last 30 days. I think this might be getting review bombed then. Dexter 2 Legacy Edition. Epic Games for time. Oh, right. So this is going to be a different controversy, and we're going to talk about it in a second. But this is something that's been priced, and that's, I think, why this is being downvoted. But it was mostly positive, keep in mind, before the last 30 days. So what's currently going on is, we're going to go ahead and jump to today. Bungie obviously has had to delay the Final Shape. And they have been pricing things and doing things that are so fucking insane. It's not crazy. They had a bundle on Steam for a little bit. It was supposed to be like a starter kit bundle. And it was basically chock full of bullshit. And it was costing $15. We're talking like a shader, a couple random exotics, like shit you can get in game, which somebody knew what they were doing in like 10 minutes. Like, not, well, maybe not 10 minutes, but stuff that was not worth even $15. Now, there was such a backlash that Bungie was forced to pull that bundle down. I don't know if they refunded anybody who got it, but it was basically marketed as a starter kit bundle when there was nothing in there that you would need as a starter player. Even advanced players were like, this is bullshit. It's like a bunch of random crap smushed together. So they were forced to take that down. I think there have been a bunch of random sales and price cuts on a lot of the stuff from Destiny 2. Like, I think some expansions were, like, super reduced in price. I think, I think at one point, like, all the old expansions were, like, cost less than that bundle. But a lot of fucking pricing shit that makes no sense. It looks like they're just trying to do a cash grab. And that's a lot of what the recent issues are from Destiny 2, is that this game has been monetized all the hell at this point. It's showing in the gameplay and in the expansions. And the unique thing that's about to happen with Destiny 2 is this. Now, our games have been getting corporatized all to hell as far as monetization goes. We know for a fact that a lot of the things that the devs have put up to management to try to fix the game that the player base wanted have been rejected by management because they've told us this. Why have they told us this? Because, again, if you don't know, recently, Bungie just laid off like 8% of their staff, including a shit ton of security staff. I don't know how many developers, but they were basically laid off the last day of, I want to say November, was October or November. They were like the second to last day. It was done in a way to where they kind of fucked them on their insurance too. Like, they laid them off in the worst possible corporatized way you possibly could. Not only did that upset all the staff, but it has pissed off the player base. Like, holy fucking shit, people are upset about this. And not only that, they laid off people that are vital to their damn game, like their security team. From what I understand, PvP and Trials of Osiris are fucking rampant with cheaters right now, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Or at least it seems like there's nothing anybody can do because of how many people have been laid off from the damn game. Now, right now, what's about to happen is that when Final Shape comes out, it is touted as being the last chapter in the Light and Dark saga. Everything from Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 up until now has been the Light and Dark saga. It's been this discovery of, light, which is what we are. We have powers of light, and darkness, we're supposed to be evil, and us discovering that light and dark, obviously, it's a usual spiel, light and dark, two sides of the same coin, one's not necessarily evil over the other, yada, 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 same intent behind it. It's space wizards, it's good stuff. But we're coming to the end of that story. After this, the Light and Dark saga, we're going to be moving on to other things. So that's what Bungie wants to do, is move on to other stories within the Destiny universe. Sounds cool. Here is the problem. The people who are playing right now are playing because they're invested in the story. And don't even get me started on the story and how they've told that, but the people who are playing right now are mainly playing because they're either invested in the story, that's where all their friends play and they go to do stuff, or they've just played the game for so long that they're basically tied to it. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still people that generally enjoy everything about Destiny 2, okay? You can still enjoy it. I enjoy the game, okay? Don't get me wrong. But I do not approve of how the game's been monetized. I don't approve of how they treated their employees and how they've ignored their player base. And I don't approve of the cheaters, even though, again, I'm not a PvP person. So what's about to happen is we're actually getting a hard stop on when players are going to be able to quit Destiny 2 and not have FOMO. Not feel like they're missing out. Because we're coming to the end of a story. A major story, and it's the only story that's been told for the last 10 years. I've not seen that in any other MMO to date that I know of. So we're actually coming to what is essentially the end of the Destiny 2 story as we know. Now we know that the story is supposed to go on. This is not the end of the game. They've already got the roadmap for the next year after Lightfall. They're changing away from the seasonal model. They're going to be doing something called episodes, which as far as I'm concerned is still seasonal, just broken up into chapters. I mean, it's literally just, it's seasons with more steps and less seasons. But whatever, they can call it whatever they want to. It's still a story broken up and then spoon-fed to us over a course of weeks or every other week, which is, again, not how you should be telling your stories. And I don't like the fact. Again, it's a whole other story how they've been doing the seasonal model. But we've got a hard stop for the game right now. For Bungie to come out of this okay, and for Destiny 2 to come out of this okay. Because I do think that the exodus for Destiny 2 may be so bad that Destiny 2 may end up shutting down, or any future for Destiny 2 just may be gone. But for them to avoid total shutdown, one, they're going to have to appease the player base, period, because they piss everybody off with how they treated their employees, okay? That's going to be the very first thing, okay? That's something they're always going to have to do. Treating their employees that bad is bad. Two, their monetization cannot get any worse. In fact, they really need to backtrack it, because the way they're monetizing the damn game and not giving us anything in return, that's a problem. You're getting hundreds of millions of dollars, or I should say, I'm not going to say hundreds of millions. I don't know how much they're making off of the microtransactions, but they're making millions off of it at least. I'm not going to say hundreds of millions, tens of millions easily. And I'm talking yearly. I don't know how much it is quarterly, but they're probably making quite a bit. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. So they're making a ton of money off of that. Yet we see how bad the cheating is. We see how long it takes for developers to update certain things in the game. We see bugs that take too long. I mean, basically, if it's a bug that is fun for us, it gets patched out quickly. But if it's an issue or fucks up the story, it doesn't get patched out. It's a meme that's gone on for a while for Destiny 2. But if you go back and look at the history of it, that's exactly how it happens. If it's something that we're having fun with or benefits players, it gets patched out. But if it's something that fucks us, it takes a while. So the monetization is going to be another problem. We'll see how those two work. That's more of a corporate issue right there. Let's get down to the actual gameplay portion of it right now. Now, me as a Destiny 2 player, I'm going to bring up another controversy that has led me, and how I'm going to begin this portion is that I paid for all the expansions for Destiny 2. At the beginning, the Red War, that's Curse of Osiris, that's all the planets and all the expansions that we've lost. They've been removed from the game, okay? After sunsetting and everything, they've sunset quests, they've sunset raids, they've sunset gear and armor. All that shit we paid for is lost. Me, first and foremost, if Bungie wants to keep me around, And I'm not going to say this too. I'm not going to say I'm going to quit playing Destiny 2, but I'm not going to be buying anything else going forward. Because again, it's always nice to hop on and play with my friends doing a raid. I can do the raids I've already paid for. I can hop on and do that shit whenever just to shoot the shit with my friends. Don't think I'm going to buy anything else. But I got no reason to uninstall Destiny, but I got no reason to continue engaging with their monetization system either, so keep that one in mind. But all that content that was removed from the game, I want that back in the game. I don't care what the excuses are. I don't care why they took it out. I want that shit back in the game. I'm going to compare it to Final Fantasy XIV again because that's what ours compared to. I know there been talk about them taking out some stuff because they needed room or it was taking up too much space. Bullshit. Whenever Final Fantasy XIV comes out with a new expansion, they don't get rid of everything that happened before that. One thing that I do hate about Destiny 2 is that they have catered a bit too much to casual players, and by casual players I mean people that don't want to put in any work whatsoever, that want to load up the game and be doing raids 10 minutes afterwards. That doesn't work. Okay, you're going to have to work and actually learn new characters and build that up. You don't get to just hop into Final Fantasy XIV and jump right to the end game, or if you do, you got to pay for it and you have no idea what's going on. You're not going to be connected with it. You don't want to do that. You can't actually buy a story boost or a story skip for Final Fantasy XIV. Nobody does it. And if you do, you're a fucking idiot because you're going to miss out on what the hell's going on, how to use your character, everything. That's essentially what's happened with Destiny 2 is a forced story boost. Because right now we've got new players coming in that are hopping in. They haven't done the Red War. They haven't done any of this stuff. Basically, there are new Guardians that have come in that are brand new that don't have the background, but they're coming in basically as the chosen one, but they haven't got any of the pedigree. Like, even if they haven't played Destiny 1, because our characters did come over from Destiny 1, even if they haven't come over from that, they don't have any of the history in here, so they're not tied to the game, and it makes no sense for them to be chosen ones or the Guardian when they've done nothing up to this point. It also makes no sense for us to have paid for all these expansions and we don't get to play them anymore. I want to go back and play the Red War again. I want to go back and do the Leviathan raid again. I don't want to do reprise shit. I want the actual stuff that we paid for in its original form. Now, if they want to update them later on, great. But all that content that was taken from us, and I'm not talking seasonal shit, okay? I'm not saying that I want the freaking menagerie back, although it was cool. I'm saying that I want at least the base story back. At least give us the base story missions back and all the base raids. That is very important information to have for New Guardians. And again, it's shit that we paid for. So that's first and foremost what I want for me to stick around and really put in any more effort with Bungie. And that's just the story. Now, this is going to happen? I highly doubt it. And I think a lot of people aren't going to get what they want, which is why I think the game is in serious trouble. But we're going to get to that. So that's the first major non-corporate thing is giving us back all the content that Bungie took from us, which is, again, another controversy along with sunsetting. So everything taken from us, I want back, story-wise and content-wise. 2, the story's going to have to wrap up well and in a way that makes us want to see what's coming on the horizon, okay? If they fuck up this 10-year story, it's going to piss off a lot of people so bad that they're not going to even want to play the game again anymore. Now, when Destiny 1 came out, I know that they went through a lot of iterations of what they wanted it to be. I mean, we've all read or some of us have read the articles about how they didn't really know what Destiny was going to be until like the last minute, and it doesn't look anything like what they originally posted it out to be. I think you'd be hard-pressed to convince me or anyone who's played long enough that the developers knew that Destiny 2 story was going to be where it is today back when Destiny 1 released. I'm not saying they're not. I think the overall arching theme of that darkness would eventually be something we would use and that darkness is going to turn out to not be bad. That's a basic story. It's a trope that's been used 100 times. I think anybody could see that's how that was going to play out. We were always going to get darkness subclasses. Or at the very least, we were always going to learn, hey, darkness isn't bad, yada, yada, yada. But I think you would be hard-pressed to convince me that we'd be here today and that it would turn out that, the voice in the dark, that, the big baddie was the witness, that it wasn't opposite the Traveler, that it was just a whole race of people combined into one, basically, and that the Veil was really opposite Traveler. There's no way you're going to convince me that that's where they thought we were going to be at this point. I think it's pretty clear in some points in Destiny 2, and throughout Destiny period. I'm just going to say Destiny. I keep saying Destiny 2. I think it's very clear that at some points they were just kind of pulling shit out of their ass or making it up as they go along. Now, on a 10-year journey, it's understandable that some things would be retconned. as we would come to understand them, or we would get a better understanding of them, and what we thought was one thing in the past turned out to be another. That makes sense, okay? And it does make sense that some things may be retconned here and there, but it should not be a constant occurrence, okay? That's understandable. Not everything in the story has been handled very well, especially when it comes to like seasonal stuff. Not everything makes sense. A lot of things have been very clearly smashed together and forced together. For example, Saint 14 and Osiris being lovers. That feels about as organic as Blake and fucking Yang and Ruby being forced to be lovers. Like, it does not feel organic. It feels like it was something that was only done to appease the fans, and they were weird fans, but whatever. There's a lot of other story things that don't quite make sense, but we've accepted them and we moved on. But if they mishandle the way that this story ends, it's gonna be a problem. You cannot have a story, and don't get me wrong, the overarching story, what's happening in Destiny 2, is a great story. Now, on the micro, yeah, some things have looked really shitty, some things have not been handled well, but as a macro, it has been amazing. Even once they end this, I don't think we're going to know everything. I think there's still going to be a lot of questions, assuming this is handled right. I think there'll still be a lot of questions about origins and stuff like that, but overall, the story has been actually pretty cool. There have been twists and turns. I mean, shit I didn't see coming. I mean, some things were obvious, some things are tropes, some things were twists that I didn't see coming, that nobody would have predicted, and it has been pretty cool. They've got to end this story well. Because if they don't, no one's going to trust them to continue forward with any other stories. Like, if I read a story from a bad author or an author and the story is shitty, I've got no reason to continue on reading. In fact, imagine if Harry Potter ended with Harry pulling out a Glock and putting one in fucking Voldemort's head. Like, no one's going to be like, wait, everyone will be like, what the fuck was that? How? No, that's not how you end this. That's bullshit. I mean, yeah, technically an author can end the story however they want to, but there are certain expectations that a story is going to be wrapped up in a way that makes sense, and is at least, if not completely pleasing, makes sense to the reader, or in this case, the players. So they've got to treat this story and give it the respect it deserves on ending the Light and Dark saga. Not ending the Destiny saga, because what they have to do is they've got to end the Light and Dark saga and open the path for the next saga, because after we take out the Witness, and we know we're the good guys, we're going to take him out. After we take out the Witness, we now have to figure out where do we go from here. We built all these alliances and made these friendships. Are they going to hold up after we don't have a common enemy? Do we still have a common enemy? Is there a bigger baddie out there? What happens to all the other races out there once they figure out that we've taken out the Witness? Do we become targets for all of them? Do we rebuild? What do we do? There's a million different ways we go with this. We could even go with the original way that Destiny or that Bungie wanted to go with this and go out to a bunch of different planets. Like, we could end up on that swamp planet that we saw in the original Destiny fan art. Or not Destiny fan art, Destiny art, where we were seeing giant frogs and shit. We could end up on planets like that and go out and become explorers. It could be any number of things that could happen, but they've got to do this in a good way. And 3, and this is a big one, and this is the last thing that I think they have to do that's non-corporate. They've got to release this without the fucking bugs. Now, bugs have not been too terrible as far as Destiny. There are games that are released with a lot more bugs, but it seems like every single time in like the last year or two, every season something else random breaks in the game, or something else random is just fucking destroyed, or it has to get disabled, or it's just like, I don't know what's going on with the devs over there. There's no playtest. I get that they can't really do much playtesting with us. It's not like a beta tester or anything like that, which they could still do. I understand they don't want to ruin any story stuff, but you could very easily have stuff like new subclasses have a beta. Sorry, I got hiccups there. Some kind of test server. Even if you don't have people under NDAs, which you could still do, although I do know that they have problem with leakers in the past. I mean, you can still have some kind of test server, but every time something comes out, it's like every season something else is broken. And that's unacceptable in a game this big, especially with as much money they've been making. So, those are the big 3 things that they're really going to have to take care of for this. And not only that, the features and stuff that we get, all the new stuff that we get, is going to have to be good enough to keep us around on top of all the other bullshit. And remember, the controversies I went over, that's like maybe 5%, like, I'm not even kidding, maybe 10 at most, 10% of the shit that's happened over the years. I mean, everything from sunsetting to killing our experience so they can make more money. It's just the tip of the iceberg, because every single season, damn near, or every single expansion, there have been their own set, not just single sets of controversies that have happened, okay? Entire sets that have happened throughout the year, okay? They have got to make something so great that it overshadows all of that, ties in the story, gives us a story that makes us want to stay around, keeping all the old players and appeasing them and giving us enough new stuff to play with that we're like, you know what, we want to go ahead and stick with the story for another 10 years. Because again, this is the ending spot. This is a spot that most MMOs never get to. We have got an actual hard ending spot that we can stop and not feel like we're missing out on the next expansion or missing out on the next whatever. We can end our stories right here and be done and never look back. You've got to rope people in and keep them in with their story to not only fulfill what we've done for the last 10 years, all the work we put into this, and convince us to stick around for another 5 and 10 years. I don't think Bungie is capable of doing that at this point. I think maybe if they had a few more years to work on Lightfall, they could probably do it. I know it's been delayed until June. Unless they're doing some extreme crunch right now, I don't think they're going to be able to add all this stuff in or bring everything back that we need. And again, that's assuming. I don't think they're going to bring back all the old content. That's one of my things I want them to do. I don't think they're going to have something that's good enough to actually keep people around, because right now they have to be working on actually the final shape as well as whatever's coming afterwards. Now, I know there are rumors of a new subclass coming out. There's been tons of leaks. I've seen leaks for the story for final shape. I've seen leaks for the subclasses. Some of the shit just sounds too far-fetched to be true. Like, mechanically, it doesn't even make sense. I've heard some of the leaks. People have... I'm not going to go on it because I don't want to get my ass in trouble with the damn company, but some of the shit that I've heard just does not make any fucking sense. But I've heard weirder shit, so... yeah, I think right now we're really... I think Destiny 2 may end up... They may end up having such a backlash, or they may have so many people leave that Bungie has no choice but to either A, get snatched up by Sony, or B, have to find an entire new player base somehow. And I don't know how they can do that after this. Especially people who are talking about how bad Destiny 2 is. I mean, their best bet at staying alive is to keep their player base they have right now, bring back old people, and keep everybody appeased right now. And they're not going to do that if they're not listening to their player base, which has been a huge problem. Now, it was funny to me that there have been so many issues with like PvE and issues with it. I'm going to change my warlock here. There have been so many issues, but here recently when there was big issues with PvP and us finding out that there weren't going to be any new maps or anything, there was such a backlash they had to put together a whole strike team. This tells me that if people speak up that we can get changes actually made, that just tells me that they just haven't wanted to do it. Now, again, I'm not a developer. I can't speak on the coding and what goes into shit, but again, I can talk corporate. I have worked corporate, and it's very easy to see when corporate is bleeding through into a video game. So, yeah, even if I don't know why things are the way they are, as Bethesda apparently likes to say, even if I don't know the exact reason, I got a pretty general idea of what's going on. I don't need to know the exact decision that made somebody do something. I don't need to know what future plans you've got to see why somebody does something. I just need to look at what the end result is and work backwards from there, and I can get a pretty good idea, even if it's not exact. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter why something is the way it is. If it's bad, it's bad. So, but that's going to do it for today from me, guys. That has been my Destiny 2 rant. Again, next week is going to be a holiday. We got Christmas, obviously. Then we got New Year's after that. I'm going to try to live stream Elden Ring during that time. We're going to see if we can get through a few boxes. Because, again, I legitimately forgot we were live streaming that. There's been so much stuff going on. Or that we were doing a playthrough for that. I've still got the character. I mean, I haven't deleted it or anything. I just forgot we were doing it. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon here recently. I've actually been thinking about trying to do some Pokemon streaming, that kind of thing. I think Nintendo's lightened up a bit on a lot of that shit. I got to look a bit more into it. I know at one point I'd refused to even talk Nintendo games because they had such a bad relationship with creators. I think it's lightened up a bit, but I'm going to have to go in and take a look at that before I really commit to anything. But I am going to get the Elden Ring playthrough again going next week. We do know that the DLC is dropping next year. We should, of course, have Starfield's DLC dropping as well. Remnant 2 should have its next DLC out at some point, too. We got at least 2 more going for it, so yeah, we got a lot coming up for the year. I haven't looked into any new real big RPGs. There is a survival game survival crafting game coming out. I don't remember what it is, but it looks like one I might want to play. I've been looking for a survival crafting game that incorporates magic, and this is one that I think I might end up liking. We'll see, though. I've been disappointed in a lot of the ones that I found. I haven't got to play a good survival crafting game in a while outside of Minecraft, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. Stuff like 7 Days to Die and stuff like that never really progressed. It's one of those games that's constantly in alpha. It will be for like 10 years, so really I got no reason to continue playing it at this point until it comes out in full. But yeah, that's going to do it for today, guys. Thank y'all for coming by. But I don't see you until next time. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like what we're doing. Leave a like on the video. Let me know what you guys want to see for the final shape for Bungie, or what you need to stay in the game, or if you're just going to be quitting regardless once final shape is done. I couldn't blame you. Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for coming by, and I will see you later.